Moved from client side to agency side. Prior to that, I was with agencies for about 20, 25 years, a little bit of time. Actually worked for Acronym quite a bit, so I know they're one of our sponsors here. So definitely spent a lot of getting my teeth cut on paid search and SEO working for them. I've moved more into the, I guess you could say, the tech stack side of the business, working a lot with our data management platforms, but also understanding user intent, because in the past with Cisco, we've really focused a lot on targeting by persona, which, looking at job titles and things like that, but that's really not going to get us where we want to go, right? Cisco's been going through a digital transformation for the last few years. We're really trying to be part of, as someone mentioned before, the Internet of Things, providing solutions to our clients that are going to give them that long-term benefit and have that lifetime value. But we have to understand who our customers are, what keeps them up at night, where are they in their searching for a product, for example. Because with Cisco being B2B, the life cycle is like 16 to 19 months. They could come to our site upwards of 30 to 50 times. So it's really important that we understand them, but we also give them the content that they're looking for. So without further ado, I'm going to move into what this is going to cover. In the next 15 minutes, we're going to talk about the audiences and intent, how we've kind of evolved this over time. And then I'm going to talk about the recipe. We're not talking about baking cakes or cookies, but we're talking about the ingredients that we've been putting together for a standardization of our audiences. And then I'm going to talk about some of the things we've done with search intent utilizing Bright Edge. I'm going to briefly talk about some of the personalization efforts we're doing. And then a really cool pilot that we just kicked off a few weeks ago called Intelligent Content. But again, as we've been talking about all day, it all starts with that customer intent. And we have to understand that intent to develop the right content to take them on that customer journey. As I said with Cisco, the buying process can take a really long time. So again, it's that first impression when they come to the website, making sure that we're giving them what they want, giving them the information that they need, and making sure we've taken into consideration what their research and things that have done in the past, and understanding those buying signals that they're giving us, and looking at those insights that are going to help us to form creative development and also optimization as well. Because the audience that you plan for may not be who responds to your advertising, but it's the response to the behavior signals and the intent signals that really, truly matter. And it's really important on your website to build in behavioral signals. One of the things that we've done is we've done kind of some scoring models where we'll look at when someone comes to the site, if there's certain pages they go to, like end of life, well, that obviously means someone's interested in maybe upgrading their particular product, or they may go to a blog page or community pages. We've built scoring models in place to kind of, rank these as high, medium, and low to say, okay, customers interested, let's, focus on these particular metrics to kind of help, drive them through that customer journey. And thinking of these goals in kind of like a micro sense, kind of like, looking at it from a purchase or a lead perspective. And don't generalize behavior to an entire audience. We oftentimes assume that this audience is going to behave a certain way, and sometimes that's not necessarily the case. But it's always important to take at all of the different elements that you look at, the time of day, the device. We've talked a lot about mobile and different things there. Topic of interest. What are they interested on? They build this picture of who this user is. And the more that we understand and we're open to following this intent, we can develop the content that they truly care about. And of course, machine learning definitely helps us what they are doing on the site and helps us to plan media accordingly as well. So let's talk about the recipe, not about cookies, but what we've been really driving at Cisco for the last 9 months is creating standard global audiences that we can target across all our channels, search, programmatic, social, and having each of these channels use these same traits to ensure a consistent audience targeting. Because in the past, that hasn't been the case, but when we would go and look at KPIs, it was really difficult to measure because the audience recipe was different when it came to different architectures and also with different regions. So this was a global standard that we adopted. And then the methodology that we use for this uses a combination of account level data, intent data, and also buying stage data, which I'll talk a little bit more about in a second. So this is what the recipe looks like. So it's breaking down into 4 areas where we focus on topic of interest. So this can be, we try to get away a little bit from job titles, but we do kind of do some inference around that. How they interact with Cisco.com, what pages they go to. We also use some third-party behavioral data and also search intent. People, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a bit, but how they're searching on other sites and how we can map that to Cisco.com. We then also look at buying stages. So this is where we've kind of taken some modeling information and looking at, again, how an account or a user goes on Cisco.com and determine if they're like in the aware, shop, or buy stage. And so again, this is a layer of this audience segmentation. Then, of course, we use our account data as well, and we're trying to do a lot more with our sales team. Yes, marketing and sales and Cisco don't always play so nicely together, and I can say that on the record, that is true, but we're working really closely to align much more closely. So we're taking into account sales plays and sales information as well. And then campaign level data. So again, this is accounts that might be relevant to a particular architecture that we're going to focus on that has propensity to buy modeling and also sales opportunity as well. So I know this is a really busy chart, but really just wanted to focus on what this drives at the bottom and what we're trying to go to from where we always were like Cisco content out, pushing our content out, instead of getting the customer-led content and messaging, and then, enriching that customer experience that addresses the needs and the cares abouts of our customers. So I know this is a little bit of a bitty slide, but this is what I just talked about and how we would actually map it out for one of our architectures. So it's important, as you can see, that we have like different topics of interest, the segments, and then also the buying stages. And then also we have to look at it from a regional perspective, but also the key thing is making sure you have content for each of these particular areas. And this is what it looks like when we put it all together. So what we have here is basically our enterprise network audience broken down by the different stages of the buying cycle, the content that's going to be served up into these different stages, and then also this ties to all the different audiences. So this has been a big struggle and a big accomplishment that we've been able to achieve at Cisco, to be able to align these audience journeys with the content journey as well. So part of that recipe we talked about, I mentioned, was search intent. So we've utilized BrightEdge, which is a tool that we use for SEO, to develop an intent modeling for our different architectures. So utilizing growth opportunities, keywords that people are searching on, we take those and map those back onto Cisco.com and use that as a relevant part of this experience. So here's a quick example of what this modeling looks like. So you can see here we have the keywords. They've been categorized as like a strong growth or high growth potential based on the monthly searches. And then we take those keywords and say, okay, where on Cisco.com would this be relevant, and map that to there as part of the recipe. Personalization is also a big thing we're doing at Cisco. A lot of B2B marketers are stepping up this game. I mean, we know that a lot of, obviously companies like Amazon do this every day, but it's a little bit more challenging sometimes with B2B because, bigger and we have so many different audiences that we target. But we know that everybody's expecting that. Everybody wants that Amazon experience where you can come in to a site like Cisco, they know who you are, they know where you've been, and they can provide you a landing page and content that's relevant to that. But it's difficult and it's hard to do right. And then I love this quote by Gardner, where by 2020, 85% of customer interactions will be managed without a human. So we do know that AI and machine learning are definitely going to be playing a strong role with this. So this is just a little quick example of how ABM personalization would work on an example with using demand base here to talk about how it's all of a personalized experience, a selected offer based on what someone's experiences have been, recommended content, having a personalized chat where you could actually talk to somebody, and then having that dynamic creative element that would be able to be presented to a consumer. So the benefits of personalization, just some high-level points here. Again, with everything, if it's non-personalized, again, it's kind of a static experience. It's going to be rigid messaging. It's going to be one size fits all. But then with personalized, it's going to have that ability to take page on your website and be able to have personalized touch points along the way that'll help drive that customer through that customer journey. So I want to talk a little bit about this pilot that we've just recently kicked off. We call it intelligent content. This is, again, something we just launched. We're seeing some really good results with it so far. But what we've done is we've taken, using audiences as well, and taking content, and we call them content fragments, and tagging them with these different attributes. So we mentioned, of course, like the buying stage, account segment information. And then when a customer comes to Cisco.com, the machine learning will actually determine what that personalized call to action to the offer will be. And then we're actually going to see how that actually builds a custom software element for this person. So then it allows us to take this understand the customer journey based on these, these purchase journey preferences to deliver a really true personalized and dynamic experience in real time. So what does this mean? When we see customers engaging with a certain content, we can then infer what their care-abouts are, and then we can also understand where they are in that buying journey. And again, making sure that wherever they might happen to be, whether they're on search, programmatic, they're getting that same consistent messaging across the board. This is also important, we get information about what their interest is, and, what their behavior when they're browsing our content, we can determine what that next best offer is going to be for them. And then personalization really gives us the ability to get that offer in front of the customer in the channels where they're engaging with us. So one thing that I did want to mention about these standard audiences that we're doing true is the recipe is consistent across all of our channels. So it's not just, search, programmatic, social. They're having to use those same data points when they're doing that. And this has been also kind of part of when we've been building this intelligent content pilot to making sure that no matter what channel they're in, they're going to get the same experience. So here's what example of kind of how this actually flows out. So here's an example of where they would have an ad about security. So they would want to, click on get the report to take them to the call to action. So they'll come to a landing page on Cisco.com where they would actually be able to, fill out a form, get some general information. And what it will actually do, it will generate an ebook automatically and assemble it based on the information, based on those content fragments that have been tagged. So it'll actually be a true personalized experience that they go through in, being able to have that. So we've actually just started testing this. We're going to be doing a little bit more of an expansion to it. There's still a little bit of the process that's a little bit manual. It's not as truly automated as we'd like it to be, but we are moving forward to do this. So we really want to, again, put our customers first, and I think that's going to be kind of the message that everybody's saying today, and then making sure we can give them that true customer experience where we do know who they are, we know what their care-abouts are, and we can deliver the right content to them. And with that, I thank you.
That was great, Diane. Well, Diane's going to stay with us, so you can stay up there, and if there's any questions, it can be after we have our panel.